One of the things I was going to mention as I bring the next caller in is that this week I finally got a hold of a copy of The Believing Brain by Michael Shermer. And I'd strongly recommend it. I haven't got that far into it. But one of the things, as I'm bringing the next caller in, I'll leave you with this little question. There was a survey done, sorry, wrong glasses. There was a survey done, Harris poll, I think it was, that was done in 2009 of 2,303 adult Americans who were asked a series of questions and what they believe in, effectively. Just this little teaser for now, as I bring in the next caller. In this poll, did more Americans believe in the theory of evolution or in the existence of ghosts? So have a ponder about that as I bring in complete rationality. Sorry, have I got that? Yes, complete rationality. And as he's coming in, what do people think then? More people believe in ghosts or the theory of evolution? What do the panel think?
But can I intercept one last thing about Craig is and what Michael was talking about. I remember in Conk's video, it showed a clip of him in this very smug, mocking tone of voice, talking about the issues that Dawkins takes issue with. And he says, for example, he cited the harassment of homosexuals. And Craig's voice and body language and expression wasn't just callous. It was that unique kind of triumphant look that Venom Fang X, for example, would get when he's talking about people who don't get their limbs back and things of this nature. It's not just a callousness. It's not just a disassociation from people getting harassed because they're different until sometimes they take their own lives. It's poking fun at Richard Dawkins for even caring about those people. It's treating the entire thing like it's a big joke. And in this mentality and this attitude extends into all the other issues that Craig talks about, wherein an atrocity is carried out or any kind of, even very softcore offenses are committed by people under a religious banner. He is very quick, not just to be smug about it in the way he presents his argumentation or counter-argumentation, but he's seems to be openly ridiculing anyone with an actual conscience.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if someone maybe should check out William Lane Craig's basement. See if there's any recent excavation being done down there.
All right, well, we've got the next caller with us now.
There are so many people to send to the eternal bliss of heaven,
That's true. Just going back to the question then, no one seems to want to answer on the panel. The percentage that believe in ghosts, 42%. The percentage believing in the theory of evolution, might surprise you, 45%. So more people believe in evolution than ghosts, which I kind of guess is sort of encouraging. We'll do a few more of those during the course of the show, but we have our new caller with us. Complete Rationality, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
Good to have you. How can we help you?
Well, you guys have pretty much said what I'm pretty much going to say, but I guess I'll go ahead and reiterate. Probably the main reason why Richard Dawkins refused to debate him is because he would perhaps want to debate someone of personal integrity. William Lane Craig is more so concerned about winning a debate and apologetics than he is about having an honest discussion. When you look at the story of the genocide in the Bible, it's real easy to admit and understand that what was done was wrong. If anyone today were to suggest that, it would be reprehensible. But because William Lane Craig is unwilling to budge, he just will not admit that what God did was wrong, because if he were to do that, then he would lose debate points. It could possibly cost him part of the argument. And you can tell he's concerned about winning because he had the empty chair there when it was already established that Dawkins was not going to show up. He continually tries to debate Dawkins when Dawkins has refused to debate him several times. And I think it's really sad when you try to justify things by saying that because he's God, he has the right to kill you. That just lets you know he has no way to actually justify what he's saying. And using that, you can apply that to anything in the Bible that God has ever done wrong and just say, well, it was God. And it shows that people can try and use God to justify anything.
Well, it's the argument that you hear quite frequently. God has made you, God can break you, and he will. I mean, it's similar to a clip that I used in a recent video of Venom Fang X, in which he talks about homosexuals and has his usual utterly empathetical way. It says, it's not that I hate homosexuals, it's homosexuality because God says it's wrong. Now, I think that raises an interesting question, because basically, is he actually saying that he doesn't have a problem with homosexuality, or he wouldn't have a problem with it, were it not for the fact that he worships a God who is obviously a homophobic bigot? I think that puts his position even worse, because it makes him sacrifice, or it shows that he's sacrificed his own moral integrity for a bigoted homophobic git in the sky.
Yeah, it seems as if he would go to any lengths, even if that includes sacrificing his own moral judgment to defend the Bible.
That's what it's all about. It's a matter of pretend, really. I noticed this in a number of debates that I've seen and a number of public confrontations. It does not matter to these people whether it is really true. It matters more whether you believe. Okay, what they're presenting does not necessarily have to be factually correct. They don't actually care if it is. All they care about is making themselves believe it. Their conviction is what matters. Their refusal to change their mind if proven wrong is so important that they have actually put it in a statement of faith, which is proudly displayed by every creationist organization. At some point, on some level, one would think these guys have to know that what they believe is not really true. Because when you face most of the ones that are professional in this, when you face most of them at going through, as DPR put it, the bullet points, and just going down to the facts systematically, they have to start getting squirrely. They have to start changing the direction, or throw out something else that doesn't make sense, jump to some erroneous conclusion, whatever they can to trip you up some way, so that they can avoid admitting that they don't have anything true. You do. They want you to pretend that anything that science can't yet answer means that they can answer it by their default position, which is, of course, their assumed conclusion. And it's all a whole bunch of logical fallacies wrapped up into a big wibbly ball. That it doesn't matter what the truth really is. They're not trying to understand. They want to make themselves believe, because reality scares them. Death scares them. They want to believe that they are the center of the universe. This is why they claim to be so humble. And it just isn't about truth. They don't like truth, and they're not seeking it.
The thing is, religious people often ask us why we even care, why we even bother, and what William Lane Craig presents is a prime example of it, because he's not simply excusing the death of children or people in general by seemingly natural causes, which he would allege are really part of some divine plan. He's talking about human beings taking their swords and killing entire nations of people. And he tells a series of bald-faced lies about what those stories actually recount. He says, oh, well, there's no evidence that women and children were killed. There's no evidence of non-combatants are killed. There's no possible wiggle room left. Those are just bald-faced lies if he is going to take any of the accounts in books like Joshua or the preceding books, literally in any sense. I mean, that just goes to show he's not just being creative with the truth. He's just a bald-faced liar who is just crossing his fingers and hoping that none of his target audience of students will ever read the Bible, ever. Hopefully they'll get bored around the book of Numbers and stop. But we're talking about a story from the Bible in which human servants of this God, they do the majority of the killing. And this is where it gets, this is the whole point, is, you argue with religious people and they say, well, why do you hate my God? And it's like, well, to be honest, it's not even the God itself I have a problem with. It is the fact that his servants feel that they have the same license that he does, that when they're operating under his authority, they can go wherever they please, do whatever they wish. They say, well, I'm under orders, give me access to this or that, give me permission to do this and that. And, you have the issue, and then the same people who will say that will then treat the issue of the veracity of any of these claims as though it's somehow bizarrely irrelevant. someone says, well, I have the right to murder this person in the name of my God because my God can't be questioned and I'm acting under his orders. And then they'll look at you like you have two heads if you start to question whether those orders are forged or whether they are, genuine.
Yeah, so going on to this point that Craig makes about if they'd just moved off the land, then no one would have had to have died, does sort of raise the question, God's all powerful, why didn't he just transport them, 200 miles to the west or something? Because, the truth is with these Arable cultures that, exile from the community was essentially death, starved to death in the desert. The idea that you could just sort of move all of these people off and all they had to do was move this sort of voluntary ethnic cleansing and no one would have died is just bollocks. But, I suspect that fundamentally the victory conditions for Craig was just to have Dawkins turn up because, like I said, Dawkins is worth somewhere between 10 and 20 William Lane Craigs. And it goes, I think, to something that Dawkins himself actually said, is that a debate would look very good on your CV. It would look very bad on mine.
Because he's trying to pull himself up with someone else's bootstraps.
Riding along on his coattails.
It's been said before, I think it bears repeating, and that is that the process of science and the process of apologetics are almost diametrically opposed to each other. They are diametrically opposed to each other. The process of science takes evidence, gathers it, tests conclusions, but it derives from the evidence. And then we have apologetics, which is the exact same process in reverse, which sort of ties into our arrow of time discussion earlier. You take the conclusions you want to achieve, you want to arrive at, and you try to drag a path out behind it so that you can arrive at that conclusion. And that's, to me, what feels so intellectually bankrupt about all these apologetics, is they've already decided that whatever God did or said or commanded was correct, and now they just have to find some way to justify it, rather than taking the evidence and going forward and saying, this was a wrong thing. We reject this. I can still hold my faith, but I fully and wholly reject this element of my faith or this part of the Bible. I've decided to rip it out of this book. And until a religion exists where you can rip pages out of the Bible, it's out of reach for me. I can't do that. I can't bring myself to just accept whatever it tells me, regardless of what my internal compass tells me.
At the risk of sounding ironic, hallelujah, brother, hallelujah.
Aaron.
Remember when Venom Fang X was posed the question whether he would accept that birds were a subset of dinosaurs or humans were a subset of apes? Before he would answer the question, not having any idea how to establish either answer, he first had to clarify with us, would that compromise his end position? Because that determines his answer. Whether or not he can remain believing as he does or claim to honestly believe as he does if he answers the question correctly. If we give him permission, say that it's okay to say that that humans are a subset of apes and you can still be a creationist, then he gives the concession. But if it is not okay, if it works against his end belief system, then that determines his answer. His a priori conclusion determines everything else. Facts be damned. And of course, he is admitting there that he will lie wherever he has to protect that belief. So that's why I say on some level, they have to know that what they're doing is pretending, that it isn't really real. But what is really real scares the crap out of them. And that's why I say that Nietzsche was right when he said that faith was not wanting to know what is true.
Well, Aaron, there was another issue that I was talking to someone about this week, and that was the way in which I had mirrored a video by the Tree Puka, which dealt with a Christian who claimed that he could raise people from the dead. And his video was perfectly acceptable. It used a number of short clips that fell within the fair use provisions. The person who it was targeted at initially served a privacy notice. That was appealed to YouTube, and successfully, so the video was restored. 2 days later, a DMCA notice gets slapped on it. Now, what I want to know is, do these people actually have any idea that they are doing wrong, or are they justifying it because they're doing it for God, or do they just simply not appreciate what's going on? They're so deluded and so committed to their cause.
They're committed to the delusion. That's true. That's the problem. I've had people tell me that they believe in God because they have to. I've had people admit to me that they believe in God because they have some emotional need to imagine that they're going to see their son when they die, or if they lost a child, this is a typical thing, that they're going to see their son or their father when they die because they miss that person and they can't deal that, the reality of death. So they make death not a reality anymore. And unfortunately, at the expense, reality goes away right along with it, and the entire fantasy comes in to take its place. And when you get them into a corner where they are forced to concede some obvious truth that flies in the face of their dogma, and they can't escape, and they can't change the subject, and they can't avoid the admission, and they can't defend it either, what you see is a psychological meltdown.
Okay, can I just explain very quickly? I see you've just come back online, complete rationality. I removed you because you'd fallen from the call, and I have other people to take, and we've got the next caller with us. But before we come to the next caller, two things. Firstly, I'll give you another quick quiz. Do more people, in this poll I refer to, do more people believe in creationism or the theory of evolution? Almighty, I'll give you the answer after Almighty's spoken.
I'll wager that the largest segment believes in both, paradoxically. But anyway, what Aaron's describing is just the very pinnacle of circular reasoning. That is, I have to believe, this isn't exactly what he's saying, but I've heard this from people. We heard this from one of the earliest callers on the Gin and Tonic show. And it's essentially, well, I have to believe in God because if I don't, God will be angry with me.
Okay, I'll give you the answer and then we'll take the next caller. As I said before, the percentage that believe in evolution is 45. The percentage that believe in creationism, 40%. So more people believe in evolution than creationism. Perhaps there is some hope.
I think you've got to be very careful on the actual wording of what counts as creationism and what counts as belief in evolution there.
I think you're absolutely right. I'm just doing it to fill in time between callers, and I'm not taking it that seriously. But I think it's a fair point. And I think that if you don't believe in... there's a gap there, isn't there? 45% in evolution and 40% in creationism. What?
So, wait, more people in the United States believe in evolution than ghosts or scientific denial-based creationism?
That's what the statement says.
Well, okay.
No, we don't.
Add me to the group of Americans who now believe in miracles.